Yo, welcome in fellas, my name is Sweet Phil, and Diablo 4 I think is a pretty good game. Don't get it twisted, but there are some things that I think they really could change to make the game even better. These are those things. So I'm sure many people came across this problem I'm about to mention. You went out to the Ashava fight and you kind of started looking around at who came into the same instance as you. In my case, I ended up failing the first Ashava fight. There was 2 level 7s, a level 9, and 2 level 12s. And then there are the few other 18, 19s, and 20s of the rest of us. Now, that is kind of a big issue. These level 7s and level 9s, while having more people in the instance makes it more difficult, giving it more health, they don't do any damage. They're not helping you out at all. They can't even get close to Ashava. They just get slapped right down and smacked right away. I think they need to implement some sort of minimum level requirement in order to do the instance, or something along those lines. There could be some other form to fix this particular issue. But when, let's say, there's certain people that are struggling at the level 20 or 25 you're supposed to be doing it, throwing in even more people that are even lower, just making it harder for those people in order to accomplish the goal and the task, is kind of the antithesis, the opposite of grouping up in a party. When your party literally makes it harder for you to beat the boss, that is a bad thing. So like I said, I think a minimum level requirement for the world bosses is probably the best fix. Next up is, why is it kind of so difficult in order to get group play? Now, what I kind of mean by that is, obviously you can add people off of your friends list, your Battle.net account, but what if you just want to find people to go run dungeons? What if you want to find people to group up with to go run the world boss? What if you want to, go do anything else? We'll say, as an example, in Diablo 2, you would make the game name, hey, Chaos Sanctuary 1, and then people would join that game or join up to play with you that would know that you're going out to run the Chaos Sanctuary, and that's what everybody's planning on doing. Now, obviously, with it being open world MMO style in D4, you can't exactly do the whole game name type of situation. Obviously, Discord, Facebook groups, Reddit, things like that, you can kind of try to find people that way. But I feel like going outside of the game to find stuff in this modern era doesn't really seem to be something that should be necessary. I can understand on an old game like Diablo 2, everything isn't absolutely perfect like that. But meeting up with people to go run the world boss, or go to run the dungeons, or to play through the game, maybe people that you don't necessarily personally know on your friends list, should be an option. And I think they should really just make that particular part easier. Now, I thought this next one here, they were going to correct and add in this particular tab. It didn't happen for this beta. It's possible they had already taken care of it, but it just was not on this Server Slam beta, and it will be in the final game. But that is adding that gem tab. Seems like an incredibly easy fix, and having those gems constantly in your inventory kind of seems a little bit on the pointless side. So I'm almost thinking in my head that they already fixed this, but they didn't implement it for the Server Slam. But hopefully, if you haven't, make sure you get that gem tab added in. Now, the next up is kind of a three-parter here. Stick with me, but it's something to do with the drop rates. Now, overall, I think the legendaries being really rare at these lower levels are a good thing, because you don't want to get too overpowered too early on. I think that takes away from the fun of playing through the game, and it eliminates all difficulty whatsoever. But specifically, the first one I'll mention is the treasure goblins. I had multiple times when I did see them, they just didn't drop anything except for like 30 gold. It seems a little bit wrong that when you think you have some special event, oh, I'm gonna kill this treasure goblin and get treasure, right? And you don't get literally any items at all. So maybe there could be something done with that to where the treasure goblin actually will give you, treasure. Next up are those locked chests. I don't really know exactly what those are supposed to be as far as drop rates, but it was kind of the same similar thing as the treasure goblin. Whenever I did actually get the keys and, went and opened some of those chests just to see exactly how it would go, I never really got anything out of them. If I got like one item, it'd be like a white helm, or I might get a blue sword occasionally. Not that it has to be insanity flying out of those chests or anything, but it didn't really seem to give me any incentive to get those keys and then to carry those around in my inventory. So maybe something with those could be done as well. Now, thirdly, here on this little tangent I'm going on the drop rate negative side, and that is the corpse farming in those higher level strongholds. Now, I almost think that this was completely unintentional and maybe an oversight. It's something that was overlooked and they forgot to turn down the drop rates up when you clicked on the body. So this could be one of those things that is already changed for the actual initial launch of the game, but that definitely cannot be the actual way to get legendaries as fast as possible. If it is the fastest way possible, that means everyone's going to have to do it, and nobody wants to do things like that. This game is exclusively only online, so you have to always do online what everybody else is doing that is the most efficient thing. I mean, not literally. I know the comments coming already, but that's how these games work, people, let's be honest. So yeah, I would just want to make sure that ends up not being the optimal way to farm items in the game. The best way to farm items has to be from killing monsters. So next up is re-implementing the dungeon reset button. Now, I personally didn't have too much of an issue with it. I did use it back when they had it in the other betas, and then now that they didn't, I would just teleport to town, you just walk over and sell or salvage your items, go head back through your portal and back to the dungeon, and usually it was always reset by then. But I guess if people just want to spam the dungeons over and over and over and not pick up items and not have to go back to town, it is kind of understandable. It's one of those things that people really liked, and I don't personally see a downside to it. Yes, I guess it does increase the efficiency of running the dungeons and being able to then get legendaries and experience, but I feel like adding a 1-minute timer or whatever it is between when the dungeon will reset isn't really benefiting anything except for just slowing down people that want to play faster. And there's no reason to force people to slow down. It's almost the equivalent of forcing people to backtrack, which is wasting time instead of doing the things they want to do, actually slay monsters. So even though it didn't personally bother me, I kind of want it added back in just for the people that it would benefit and make the game even more fun for those people. Now the map not having an overlay is a really, really hot button one. A lot of the super experienced players really want these map overlays, and I completely understand. They do make the game a lot easier and make the map a lot easier to see. Now, what kind of ended up happening, and I ended up doing it too, I try not to do it too much because I assume this isn't really best viewing for when I was streaming and stuff like that, but you kind of end up spamming the map button just over and over and over again in order to be able to catch quick glimpses of it while you're running, because you don't want to keep stopping and looking at the map, stopping. So you're running, look at the map, run, look at the map, run, look at the map, run, look at the map, and I'm talking opening it full screen so you can actually see what's going on. And that also is kind of a negative. I'd rather just have an overlay of some kind. I'm not really a full overlay over the middle of the map kind of guy. I kind of like how D2R has it nowadays, to where you can choose like the upper left or upper right of your screen, and it has a map that's definitely bigger than the one in D4, but it's not a full overlay. And it is partially transparent, so you can still see through it. If there's items that fall up there or monsters coming, you can still see them, but it is bigger than that small little map in the corner that, in my opinion, it's like borderline useless. The only thing I use it for pretty much when you pin a location on the large map and then you're back in the screen, it shows a little red line arrow showing you where to go. That's essentially the only time that I kind of ever look at that, because it's so small, you can't even really see where you're going on it. Now, they seem really, really intent on not adding a full screen overlay, but even if you could take that upper right-hand corner map, make it a little bit bigger, and make that a little bit of an overlay so that it's kind of like semi-transparent, but a little bit bigger so it actually helps you out in some way, I feel like that would be a good compromise. Last up is a couple of things that I hate the absolute most. They're kind of the same type of situation, so we're going to lump them together, and that has to do with the character's resource. Now, first of all, I absolutely hate how they all have some other stupid name besides calling them all the same thing. I know they're there for like character uniqueness, and so they all feel like different characters. Please don't do this to me. Just call them all mana, please. Call them all energy, whatever. Each one of them have a different name. I know it's not going to change. Maybe it's a personal gripe. It just bugs the crap out of me. Second up on this resource topic or whatever, why is it that the barbarian and druid, theirs don't regenerate passively while you're running around, but if you're any of the other 3 characters, it will regenerate on their own? If you're a barbarian and you run out and you're running around, you would really want it to regenerate at some point, so when you come across another pack of monsters, you can actually use your skills, right? But unfortunately, you can't, but the sorceress can. Unfortunately, if you're the druid, you can't, but the necromancer can. I don't know exactly why they chose to take this mechanic it is essentially a big negative, a big downside to playing either the Barbarian or the Druid, and I don't think those particular melee characters need that negative, because melee characters in all of these type of games like this are already at a disadvantage, having to be right up on monsters where you can more easily get attacked and get hit. So I would really like to see both the Barbarian and Druid have their resource regenerate slowly over time, the way that all the other characters do, to bring them up a little bit more even. Now, I know this sounds like a lot, but like I said, Diablo 4 is actually a very good game. It's just way easier to pinpoint all the little things that you would like to change than it is to necessarily go through and point out all the things that you do like. But when I take the game, I play through, I slay demons, I'm having a great time. So that really is the most important thing. But if these changes were implemented, I think I'd love the game even more.